Hey guys, Brandon here from Sasquatch Studios, and welcome to another Veil of Maya devlog. The first attempt was not flawless. So immediately after Ludum Dare ended, it was time to really get into the nitty-gritty of Veil of Maya and really start fleshing this game out. Now, we sold our house to fund this game studio. We sold our house, so this game is our career now. So some things needed to get done that were a little less fun to work on, but were really, really important in terms of running the studio like a proper business. So first, we typed out a whole game design document. And this is not ours that you're seeing, it's just an example, but this is a beast of a document that forced us to fully figure out all sorts of things like story elements, game mechanics, our core game loop, and what makes the idea of our game sticky, or in other words, stick in a player's mind, a page-long description of the game, the controls, the mood, the color palette, risk and reward scenarios, level design, and more. It took nearly a week to get through that and get it done, but it's done now and we have a super clear direction of where it is that we're going exactly. Next, we set up a website for Veil of Maya, so now that's done and it'll be updated with better screenshots once we have multiple areas carved out, but what we have will work just fine for now. And of course, in order to do that, we had to set up an email list. So it's time that we start working on something to give to people. Enter our next goal, the demo. But first, I just want to let you know that our Steam page for Veil of Maya is actually up and running as well, and there will be a link down in the description below, so be sure to check that out and give it a wish list because that will help us out tremendously. Thank you so much. Now, our goal for the demo for Veil of Maya is to get it done in the next 3 months. This demo will include a main menu, about 20 minutes of gameplay, including a cutscene, and that will have to be enough to showcase our core game loop as well. Now, for 3 months, I feel like this is a really ambitious goal. The list of art assets required and systems and things that needed to be coded, as well as levels that need to be built, it's a really long list of things that need to get done. So with that, we got right to work. I started off with what I didn't quite finish in the last video, which was the projectile spell, which still needs a better name. But the spell feels really good to use and deserves some proper effects to showcase it. So I got that in there. It may get changed down the road, but it's certainly better than a white capsule. And then after that, my goal was to get some new enemies put into this video, as well as a new simple character ability and maybe some camera controls if I had the time. And apparently I sometimes work backwards, and the camera controls had been causing me some stress because I didn't actually initially know how to make some of it do what I wanted it to do, so I started by handling that first. So you can see it working here now. So there are a few things I wanted this to handle. I wanted the ability to pan up and down by flicking the right analog stick up or down. This can be useful for seeing enemies or spikes or things like that. If you're about to jump off of a ledge into an area below you, you'll be able to check for danger. Next, I wanted to make a breakable wall that once there's actual art in here, it'll blend in much better than it does right now. But you break the wall, and then once you enter that secret room, the camera pans into the room to showcase it for you. But before that, the camera just stops at the wall as if you've reached the end of the level. If it didn't work like this, then the secret room would be a dead giveaway. You want it to be as if the room doesn't exist until you break the wall. Now, I thought I had this working properly, but then my 7-year-old daughter tested the game and found some pretty glaring flaws with this. First, when the destructible wall is broken, you still get knocked back when you hit the area where the wall was, not what I wanted. And then if you only partially enter the doorway and then you go back, you kind of totally screw up the camera controls and it pans to the wrong room each time. So if you ever want a proper playtester for your game, get your kids to do it. They're very good at finding problems. So I went back to the drawing board for this system and designed a more foolproof system and got that working properly. Next, it was time to start working on a new enemy. And I'll kind of show you the step-by-step process of how we got this guy working as we go through it. First, where we start is we take a moment to figure out exactly what we want the enemy to do, and then start coding out the basic behavior and test, tweak, and iterate. I find that game development is all about iteration. You make, you test, you tweak, and then you repeat. So we wanted this guy to be a fairly basic flying enemy. The end result being that he's a flying enemy that makes just small random movements around the room until he notices you, at which point he'll do a small wind up and then dive bomb attack the player with these thorns sticking out of his wings, which is what will damage you. So once the basic code for his movement was done, I threw a bunch of the enemies in there with my own gorgeous artwork into the scene, and they were sort of working as intended, except they didn't behave well once they touched the ground. The movement just kind of stopped once they touched the ground. Not what I wanted. So I went back into the code, did some tweaks, and tested again. This time the ground glitch was fixed, but now I noticed that when the enemies bumped into each other, they'd mess with the other one's movement a lot. They're kind of pushing each other around. Also not what I wanted. Went back in, did some more tweaks, and got that issue ironed out. They'll now just kind of go around each other in order to get to their destination, but there's no more pushing and no more bullying of the other enemies. Next, I wanted to make sure that they looked in the proper direction, so that if they were moving left, then they looked left, and if they were moving right, then they would look to the right. And with that done, I decided that their basic movement was pretty good, and it was time to move on to coding the actual attack sequence. So what I wanted is that once you are within the attack radius, the enemy will look at you, hover up slightly for just a moment, then wind back just for a split second, and then dive bomb you, angling towards you so that the tip of the wings are always pointing at the player, no matter which direction he's coming from. So I got the dive bomb part without the rotation working just fine, and before I continued, I wanted to make sure that the player could use telekinesis on the enemy without problems. That is one of our hooks for the game, so I always want telekinesis to be working really, really well, so it's always one of the first things that I test. The enemy movement and the telekinesis, they were conflicting at first, so I decided to create a list of states that the enemy cycles through, like patrol, attack, and idle, and things like that. And all enemy cycles, they will just stop if they are in the telekinesis state. Now, doing it this way made it much easier for me to get things under control. It's a lot easier to track things in the code, so I will definitely be doing it this way moving forward with all enemies. So with that out of the way, there were just a few more loose ends to tie up with this enemy, like the art and animations. Nikki did an awesome job, and the animations look really good. The telegraph for the attack was especially important, and I think that she really nailed it. And the last thing was just a simple matter of getting the enemy to look towards the player when they're attacking. The first attempt was not flawless. Neither was the second attempt. And I fiddled with this for quite a little while, having various problems that I couldn't quite solve. I finally got it to a place where it was almost working like I wanted. It worked fine if the player was on the right side of the enemy, but if the player was on the left, then the enemy would flip upside down when he was dive bombing the player. And at this point, I had other things I really needed to get done for this video. I wanted to move on, so I posted on the Unity Answers forum and on a few Discord channels to ask for assistance from some very smart people, and I left it alone. Next, I had a little spider enemy that I wanted to add in. He's just an enemy that can walk on all surfaces, even if he's going upside down. He did not take as long, and with the code done, I put my own art skills to the test once again, and it seems that I was pleased that he could turn corners as well. That's probably because things don't always work correctly the first time you try them. But I got it working in the end, and finally we got the real art into the game for the spider. Nikki did awesome with this one yet again. She called him Derpy Spider. That's canon now. It's in the asset files. It may change in the future though, I don't know. I had a little more time before having to get this video recorded, so I checked our very, very long list of to-dos for the demo and decided to make the heal ability, at least the very core of it. There are no effects, there's no juice yet, but it is working at the fundamental level, which is enough to test how effective effective it is design-wise. I want this game to be challenging, especially during boss fights. So you can heal for 3 health right out of the gate with this ability, and it happens instantly, whether you were on the ground or in the air. At least that's how it's working for now before we do any proper design testing, but it uses all of your essence. Just like stocking up on ammo for your projectile spells uses all of your essence. So hopefully this is going to create some interesting choices for the player to make as they traverse through the world. And once I got those things done, finally, I did get some helpful advice online regarding the bat enemy, and I was able to get him rotating and looking at the player properly without going upside down. So thank you, smart people on the internet. And that is all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to hit that like button because it really helps with the algorithm to help other people find this channel. So if you do that, I would really greatly appreciate it. Hit those subscribe and bell buttons so you get notified each time we post a new episode, and leave a comment down below to show us some love. Bye.